Hi, this is Aharon Dubinsky coming to you today from the Chut Shel Chesed Yeshiva in the holy city of Yerushalayim in the beautiful state of Israel, under the direction of our beloved rabbi and spiritual guide, Rabbi Shalom Arush. May Hashem bless him always. My Rebbitzin told me something very interesting in the last week or so, and I'm going to bring it out to you, and I'm going to give you some thoughts on it. Let's see what you think. Let me know, by the way. I'm free to listen to any kind of comments you have. Send them to me on the website or on YouTube or however. I will try to respond if you give them to me. She said to me that she read an article that said it's only a matter of a few years before Haredim outnumber both secular Jews and Arabs. I thought to myself, magnificent. And I said, you have a point on this, yes? She says, oh, yes, of course. If this happens, we'll have a Torah state. Not just this flimsy democracy that we have now. We'll have a state governed by laws of Torah. Won't that be wonderful? I said, that would be wonderful. That would be great. I would love to believe it's going to happen. She said, what do you mean you'd love to believe it's going to happen? I just told you, we're going to be the majority. I said, it's an interesting thing that when people look at the same exact facts, they can come up with different conclusions. And the fact is, we do this because we don't know all the facts all the time. Therefore, we judge based on what we do know. There was an old story about two farmers who were out across their fences talking one day, and the first said to the other, said, how are things going? And the second one said, well, my prize stallion escaped the other day. I said, that's terrible. That's terrible. Maybe yes, maybe no. When he came back 2 days later, he came back with 12 more horses for me. And his neighbor says, that's great. He says, maybe good, maybe not. You never know. My son tried to break the horses he brought back, and one of them threw him, and he broke his leg. Well, that's terrible. He says, maybe good, maybe bad. The army came around the other day looking for recruits, and since my son had a broken leg, they passed on him and he stayed home. So you see, we don't always know what's good and what's bad. Of course, we know that everything that comes from Hashem is good, but in the way that it plays in the moment, sometimes it doesn't play to the way we'd like to see it play. Therefore, we classify it as bad. And when I say bad, that's what I mean. Ultimately, as you can see even from that story, everything is always for the best. Okay, so she's telling me about all these Haredim, and we're going to outnumber the seculars. We're going to outnumber the Arabs, and that's just the Haredim. Remember, there are other groups in Israel who are very observant, who would love Israel to be governed by Torah law, just like Tati Leumi, etc. So it's not just a small majority; it's a big majority. And wouldn't it be great if just once, we could agree on something instead of fighting amongst ourselves? You see, a majority doesn't do you any good if the majority is constant squabbling and constantly split up. And that brings us to what we talk about every year about this time. You remember the story of Rabbi Akiva and his 24,000 students that died between Pesach and Shavuos. Why did they die? Because they didn't love each other? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. In the Torah, it teaches it's a law of Torah. It was also the prime law that Akiva taught his students. So they loved each other. There's no question about it. They loved each other dearly. So why were they killed? What was their transgression? Well, I was talking to a rabbi just the other day in Miami Beach. And anyway, he said something and it came to me. The answer is a lack of respect. And I said, I know what you're thinking. If you love someone, you respect them. Not always. You see, you can love someone and you can respect someone, and they don't always have to be the same thing. For example, you're more likely, in many cases, to disrespect someone whom you love. For example, you're waiting for your brother, sister, mother, father, whomever you're waiting for, and you're going to meet them in 15 minutes. And something comes up, and you've got to stall, and you're going to be 15, 20 minutes late. And what do you think? Well, the majority of people would think to themselves, well, this is my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my wife, whomever. They'll understand if I'm a few minutes late. You are not respecting their time. You're not respecting their effort to be on time. You're not respecting anything like that. So you go back to the students of Rabbi Akiva. Let's bounce back to them for a moment. How do you disrespect one another when you love one another? And you're talking about men who are exceptional. You're talking about men who had mastered Gemara, Mishnah, Zohar. These people some of them could bring people back to life from the dead, walk on water, walk through things, teletransport themselves. How could they not respect one another? When you have a discussion of Torah, quite frequently the two Chavruta will disagree. And there's ways of disagreeing and there's ways of not disagreeing. You can say to someone, I see that you and I disagree on this, and I guess we're going to have to continue to disagree because for everything I can give to you, you can give me other ones. So I respect your opinion on that, and I hope you respect mine. This would be correct. A way that would be not correct? You're an idiot. What do you mean? How can you say that? How can you say this? It's so ridiculous of you to say that this is true. I love you dearly because you're Macharuta, but how can you say something so stupid? That's incorrect. That's disrespect. That's what we have a lot of right now. I see people from my own yeshiva throwing rocks and spitting on soldiers. Now, I'm talking about people who are raiding. I'm talking about people who know Torah. I'm talking about people who, first of all, do that and then teach their children. I see some of the cutest little 4, 5, 6-year-olds running up to Mishtara, to the police here, and calling them Nazis. Is this respect? Should they be showing respect? They should be showing respect if for no other reason that these are other Jews. But let's take it a step further. Without these people who they disrespect so badly, what's to keep our malevolent neighbors from coming in and wreaking havoc upon our communities? And what's the answer to that question? Absolutely nothing. Nothing to stop them whatsoever. So instead of being grateful, which we teach all the time, we should live a life of gratitude. Not only are we not being grateful, we're absolutely showing no respect whatsoever. So that's going outside of the group. Let's talk about what's inside the group. We have dozens, hundreds of different sects, different groups, and we don't agree. Do you know there were rabbis in the last election who had followings of 70, 80, 100,000 students, told them not to vote because it was Medina Yisrael and not Eretz Yisrael? The difference being Medina Yisrael being more of a democratic state, Eretz Yisrael being the land we're designed to live in, a land that is governed by Torah. Okay, I understand. You may not be happy with that. I'm not thrilled about it myself. I would love to have a state that is governed by Torah. It would make things infinitely easier, more pleasant, more agreeable. But to tell somebody not to vote, how in the world do you want things to change if you don't exercise the rights you do have in order to get rights that you'd like to have? That's why you can't do that. It's important that we exercise the rights we have. We have to think about what's going on, not only in this world, but in the world to come. We do the things we do because they're important. They're important to having a fulfilling life now, a fulfilling life that we can report to Hashem. Remember, each and every one of us, at some point, will be standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and trying to justify what we did in our lives. And for a lot of us, it's going to be terribly painful because there are going to be a lot of things we're going to see that we wish we had done a different way. But at the time we did them, we weren't thinking necessarily about the consequences either here or in Olam Haba. So we did them anyway. And we stand before Hashem, we try to justify why we did not show respect to our fellow Jews. Now, he's loving us so much that he gives us examples all the time of why we should and why we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And do you think it's a coincidence that the peoples of the world, all the anti-Semites in the world, not just the ones surrounding Israel, but all of them, even in America, do you think it's a coincidence they hate us, that they don't like us, that they try to put us down, and the numbers are growing and growing and growing? Why does Hashem do this? Come on, remember, everything comes from Hashem. He does this because he wants to see how distasteful and disgusting it is to live a life like that. We don't want to live a life like that. We don't want to be like these anti-Semites, but we are when we don't respect our own people. On the other side, when things get too nasty, we get a little attack. we get a pagua, we get something that's going to bring us together. Because the first time we're attacked, wham, we're together, all of us. And he shows us how much nicer that is. He gives us examples on both sides, what it's like to be apart and what it's like to be together, and gives us free will. This is what we want, and this is what he gives us. If he did it any other way, it would not be free will anymore. So this shows what we can do. Now, if we don't think about what the future holds, and if we don't think about what's going on in Olam Haba, it's kind of like the story of the man who was a chicken farmer. Now, this man had eggs. He sold them to the local grocery chain. Now, he was a friend of the owner of the local chain, and he said to him one day, I have a hard time doing bookkeeping on this, and I really don't know what to do to get these straight so that I bill you properly. So the friend of his, who was a grocer, said to him, why don't you do this? Get a big jar, and every time you give me an egg, you put a penny in that jar. Okay? And the guy says, that sounds pretty simple. I think that's a good idea. I'll do that. And he does this. He says, next time I come, we'll count the pennies, and for every penny you give me, I'll give you 10 cents. All right? And the guy says, great. So time passes, and the jar's getting more and more full. And one day the chicken farmer looks at the bottle, and he says, wow, look at all that money just sitting there, just doing nothing. If I were to spend just a little bit, he'd never know. And so he does. But let's think about this. Who was he cheating? Was he cheating the grocer? No, my friends, he was cheating himself. Because for every penny he spent, he gave away a dime that he should have been getting. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of people live their lives. They live their lives not thinking about the consequences of tomorrow, not thinking about the consequences of the world to come. Remember, there's going to be 2 end of days. There'll be the end of days when Moshiach comes, where you will also be held accountable for what you've lived your life. And there will, of course, be the time when your body no longer ceases to function, and you will again be standing in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, in front of the Kisei HaKavod, and be having to give an accounting of what you did in your life. And we're told by our sages, most of us will be extremely embarrassed and hurt and on the verge of tears at that time. So let's think. Let's think ahead. Let's do what we need to do. Let's not only love our brothers, let us respect our brothers. Let us come together as one Israel, one group of Jews, to do what Hashem has put us here to do, to be a light unto the nations, to be able to change things, to live a life of joy, love, and fulfillment, a life that will bring us the coming of Moshiach Tzidkenu and the building of the third Beit HaMikdash. B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen. Be well, my friends. Have a good week. See you soon. Bye-bye.